welcome to the Survivor Pennsylvania Season 4 Recap Podcast. We will be covering everything dealing with Survivor Pennsylvania Season 4 throughout the season. I am one of your hosts, Coach Drew. I'm joined today and for most of the season by Julia Rowe. Both come from the LRG/org part of the community, and I'm really excited to dive into a lot of the stuff that we're going to be seeing this season. It was a banger of a first episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach and I started the episode different places, but pretty much the exact same time. We're texting throughout. The editing was fantastic. The characters are great. And I'm very excited to see where the season takes us.
We're at a point now where, last 2024, both shows that I am covering on the network, the editing/production quality is so great that I feel like any LRG that is continuing to put out episodic TV, this is a bar now, and this is, they're not paying me to say this, so I could just sit on here and just say,
Me.
But I would say that both Stranded and this have had great editing, great just everything that it's shown in such a way that you get invested, not as, this is just an LRG. It's like, no, this is something that I can watch weekly and feel like I'm watching the real thing. So what were your thoughts as, that, especially that first 10 minutes? What were your thoughts on not only the cast, but how it was shot, the location and all that?
Yeah, you said it best. It felt like Survivor. You had that opening shot, you get everyone's little action intros with words and quotes over it, some confessionals, and you got your mat chats. It felt like Survivor, and right from the beginning, we were getting the story, and I loved that.
We didn't linger, the hour that this is, or less than an hour that this is, never felt like it dragged. And that's not a knock on any other TV show, any other thing. It's just this was a very concise 58 minutes that we got. And I feel like we didn't learn about everyone, and we don't need to learn about everyone right now. We learned about some of our main characters for the episode, and we learned about people that I'm going to just assume are going to be around long enough or are going to make some type of impact on the game. And then we also just, I feel like there's someone on this cast for everyone to attach themselves with, no matter how much content they actually got. And there is one person in particular that we will talk about more towards the end of the episode. But who was starting to stand, whether because you knew them or not, who are some of the people that were standing out to you?
Yeah, one of my early favorites was J-Mac. Thought they had perfect winner edit content, good stuff, showing strong connections, but not too much, but also directing the vote. Great stuff to see episode 1. I'm very excited to see how they move forward in the game.
They were very no nonsense.
I like that.
Yeah, and it was very much I feel like I'd be intimidated by this person, and I don't get intimidated often, but I feel like if I was out there, I'd be hey, I want this person to be my friend out here, because I feel like if not, then they're just gonna ignore me, and I'm gonna hate myself. But I do agree, and during that strategy part of the episode, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, it did very much feel like they were at the center of a lot of the stuff, a lot of the conversation. It felt like people were really listening to what they had to say about what was happening, whether these people actually believed it going in or not. It did seem like what they were saying carried more with folks than what things that other people were saying, as we will talk about. Anyone else?
Going to the other tribe, I'm really definitely rooting for Kayla, especially someone who doesn't have a lot of experience with Survivor, as she mentioned, starting off winning that first duel for her tribe. I think doing very well in the challenge as well, directing around camp, getting a lot of good content there. I'm hoping she can learn the ropes and the cutthroat game of Survivor she navigates through.
She gave me such old school Survivor vibes, yes, which was great. I was trying to figure out who I won't say KVO because I'm not a KVO person, but someone like
I
KVO.
I can definitely see KVO in her.
And I'm optimistic for her because all the content that we got from her, oh, not even a bit from her, the content about her, what other people were saying about her, gives me the thought that she could be someone that lasts a long time in the game because there are other people on this episode that confessionals about them are fairly negative, and she was one that like consistently people were like, oh yes, like she knows what she's doing out here. People are listening to her when it comes to the outdoors aspect as compared to somebody else trying to do the outdoor stuff, and we'll get to that.
And we didn't get a ton of strategic conversation from the Green Tribe, obviously, or excuse me, the Teal Tribe. Obviously, they didn't end up going to Tribal, but just based on the confessionals we got and the tidbits we saw into people's characters, this seemed like a very person-heavy tribe compared to the other tribe, which seems more strategy-driven. And I think for a newbie like her, especially someone we're comparing to the old school game, I think this tribe could suit her perfectly.
I hope so.
Me
I honestly
too.
hope. Like, I hope that. I mean, I'm always biased towards the skin folk, but like, especially if you're a newbie, not only to these games but to the actual game of Survivor in general. So I hope that she can, catch her bearings out there. Anybody that you know besides the person that you already named, anyone that you know out there, and how do you think they performed? I guess in this episode so far. What are you expecting from them as the season moves forward?
Yes. Couple familiar faces in the cast, a lot of people I don't know too, which excites me. Big one on the Teal Tribe is Sam, absolute powerhouse, has had an incredible LRG showing this past season, um, and definitely seems very well liked on her tribe so far. Killed the puzzle, so
Yes.
I'm hoping she can have a great showing. And on the other tribe, we had Amy and Jabbar, are people I'm familiar with. I've played with both of them. And not gonna lie, a little nervous for both of them coming out of this episode. We had Jabbar voting in the minority, one of the few people who didn't vote Colin. And Amy, early in the episode and during the scramble, had talked a lot about wanting to save Colin and work with him. So nervous to see how they're going to navigate relationships next time, but knowing their abilities, I think they'll turn out okay.
Yeah, I think they'll both be fine. I'm in the mindset that like voting records don't necessarily matter, and especially if Jabbar goes into the next episode, the next day, whatever, and just says he voted with everybody else, then I don't think that anyone's going to just sit there and just be like, "Oh yeah, it was definitely this guy that did it." Yeah, Sam, as people that have associated with Sam, in a game before, she can very much carry a room, carry a conversation. I feel like people are going to be drawn to that. Obviously, there's always going to be the naysayer or two that are turned off to it, and if that happens, I know she's more than capable of combating that. Amy, the funniest part, one of the funniest parts about the episode, actually she wasn't even directly involved. It was just more. Now I'm going to forget the guy's name. Is it Peter?
Peter.
Peter forgets Amy's name, and the only distinguishing quality about him that he remembers is her age, which I won't say. But it's like, all right, so she's gonna be that to some of these people, and like Amy looks great. Amy, like, if you don't know, then you would just assume that she's, my age. So the fact that that's already been a label that's been put on her scares me, for that. Everyone always says, "Oh, I don't. My plan isn't really to target the older folks, the younger folks, whatever." And then they immediately go out there and target those people. And the fact that that label has already been put on Amy scares me. But because of the person that puts the label on her, I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried.
We'll get to that.
So we get the tribe breakdown. We're learning a lot about these folks. And I don't kind of jumping ahead till after the reward challenge, but as someone who's played in, I think, 4 games at this point, I think you've played in at least one more after, than that. What are your opinions on one of the icebreakers always being, so who's played these games before?
You know, it's definitely something that can be isolating either way. As someone who just started playing this past year, you know, going into that first game, knowing for the most part most people had played, even knew each other, but felt comfortable in the space they were in was definitely intimidating. And then on the flip side, then after playing a couple and being in that situation where it potentially did put a target on my back, it's something that I try not to carry too much weight, but I know for some people it can be a deal breaker. I also hate those conversations. I think we should just not have them personally.
And I understand that, like, when you're in the shit and you're looking for conversations to bring up with the whole group, that's just something that's just sitting there, like, especially if you've never played it before. My my mentality, I guess my mentality when I first played was, I'll just tell the truth because I haven't done one of these before. And then as I've gone along, it's like, okay, well, if I recognize anybody else in the cast, I will tell the truth. If I don't, I probably still just tell the truth because from the
Someone might
LRGs that I've
realize.
watched and from the LRGs that I've, been a part of, that's not really a reason that people target folks. In the org world, that is a thing that happens quite often where it's like, oh, well, I heard this person played a game before. It's like, yeah, we all have. It's not a big deal. In your perfect world, what would be a group icebreaker that you can kind of get the vibes from people without just straight up saying, hey, how many games have you played? Are you
Yeah.
new?
So I have three. What car do you drive? What's your favorite movie? And how do you like your steak cooked? But in actuality, I think job is a really good one. I think professions can tell you a lot about a person. You know, we have the lawyer trope on actual Survivor, people lying about that. But I think something like teachers or psychologists or things like that can be very interesting to get to know that part of a person. What about you?
Who's your survivor crush?
Oh, that's your big one. Yes.
If you were a pancake in a stack of three pancakes, what pancake would you be? That's pretty much it. Oh, and your
I
survivor
like
hot
that.
take. And your survivor hot take, because if you say anything that upsets me, then I'm probably not going to work with you. Which is basically just, if you say you like
If
Russell
you
Hantz,
like Russell Hantz.
yeah, like if you say you like Russell Hantz, I'm not going to work with you. So yeah. So anyway, we get that, but rewind back to the reward challenge, and I don't know why it took me until the end of the episode to realize that they were doing the entire first round basically in a day. But the reward challenge, we talked about it earlier. Kayla kills it.
Yeah.
On the other end, we get to our main character of the episode. Thoughts?
I loved and hated Colin. I wrote down in my notes at some point in the episode that he reminds me of Jelinski non-derogatory, and then 5 seconds later, he gave a confessional about not wanting to be Jelinski, and it just encapsulated everything that he was. Um, I was hoping that he would be either first boot or be the wild, chaotic person that lasts the entire time, and I didn't see it going any other way.
No, and especially for someone that all of his survivor experience comes from Total Drama Island, which I still never watched, but I've heard that it's good.
Add
And I
it to
think
the list.
during my marathon, I compared Gabon to what I thought Total Drama Island would be like. Yeah, I enjoyed him. I said that he looked very eccentric. He gave off Weird Al vibes,
Yes,
which in a good light.
I love Weird Al.
But it was also it was also like because of the editing tricks of the music that would play while he was doing and saying certain things. It's like, okay, so we're supposed to look at this guy as like the comedic relief, which is every season needs that. But when it was time for him to be serious, he was serious. Like he was trying to strategize. He has a perfect moment during Tribal that I had to go back and rewind and see if I could find it where it was, where he talks about like, hey, he was trying to be a team player during the challenge. He's trying to hype people up. And I appreciate people like that. I don't. I don't necessarily need it, but like if I have somebody that's like trying to push me through something, especially in a challenge like that, that is someone that I feel like I would be more drawn to in that
Absolutely.
situation. Um, how do you think he, post reward challenge, and we're going to get to the exile player in a second, but during the reward challenge, did you think that was, do you think it was fine him losing in that moment, or do you think that put him behind the 8 ball already?
I honestly don't think it put him behind as much as it may have. Especially a first challenge, no one wants to step up and do it. I think it's no surprise afterwards we find out that both people who stepped up are people that have no experience in the game of Survivor, like watching Survivor or anything like that. It's not something you want to do. And I know, like me personally, I don't hold too much weight in something like that. And I think no one else really did either because they were all too scared to step up
Yeah.
also.
Shit, I wouldn't. Like, I don't think that, and it's not, I don't think it's good strategy.
You
bad
never grab the map. You never
Yeah.
grab the map. That's what
It's not good strategy, bad strategy. It's just more, hey, I know people like to shit on under the radar. Everyone starts off under the radar until you put your
Yes.
hand up to do a captain's challenge. So at some point or another, you are playing under the radar, because if you weren't, you would always want to be doing all of this. Yes, put me up there, even if I know I suck at whatever. And you know what? Props to both of them. But then we
Yeah.
learn more about this character, and I thought he was great. That's why I refer to him as
Good
the
team.
character of the episode. But based off of confessionals from other folks, it becomes very obvious that he might not be long for this world. So what did you think about some of the people that were chiming in on him, and do you think that they were in the right? Do you think their perceptions were right?
I just think when you're that big of a character, you have a polarizing personality. We had people who seemed to really enjoy him. As I talked about earlier, Amy said before the challenge, fought for him after that she seemed to like him. Then we had people like Tyler who probably wishes they weren't in a reunion chat together right now after this episode. When you have a big personality, yep, I hate him. It happens. I think if he were potentially on the other tribe, I think he would have done better with a more, it seemed like, easygoing, and as I said, personal tribe compared to the more seeming game savvy people over on Pink.
We have our winners, and we end up having to send someone out to Exile Island. First of all, what do you think of the theme, I guess, of the season? And do you think it's going to be more than just what happens in this episode, or do you think there's going to be larger things that happen outside of just this quaint twist by comparison to what could happen?
No, they're definitely going to introduce more. I think with the production value and everything we've seen already just in episode 1, I think they have a lot of fun twists in store for us. I love the idea of a duel, especially one that they've mentioned could be private at times. I think it gives good opportunities for cross-tribe chatter, potentially introducing advantages directly into the duel. I think it's going to make for some great television when we get those one-on-one, no one else around duels.
What about Exile, though?
Oh, I'm really excited for Exile. I think we could potentially be seeing more of a Shipwheel Island sort of thing in the future. We get multiple people there. I think we could potentially see more puzzles, things like that. I don't think every time it's going to just be a binary choice, or something like that. I think there'll be more gameplay elements in there moving forward.
Okay, so we have the moment where we get there, and I don't know. I've always sat there, watching the real show and watching people do it in LRGs, and it's like I understand the internal conflict of how do I want to navigate this, because I could be completely truthful and not do shit and get back and have at least one person think that I am lying. So one, how would you navigate this type of situation, and how do you feel about how it was navigated in this episode?
I think it's so hard because unless you are very confident in your lying skills, very, very cutthroat. I feel like most people go, "Well, I think I would take the luxury. I think I would play it safe, not take that risk, especially round 1." But I honestly don't hate the way that Jordan handled it. I think he made the correct decision, especially given I think this could be a tribe that does go to tribal a bit more, and as those numbers dwindle down, that extra vote can definitely be helpful for him. Um, I think my criticism came more in the lying aspect, especially when this is something where people are going to be going continuously. I feel like the lie was a little too flimsy and is something that someone who's not directly working with him goes next time and has a very different experience can be something that is discredited pretty easily.
Yeah. And I feel like I probably agree on that. Like if you're gonna lie about something, you better make sure that no one else is gonna end up there at some
Yes.
point, because it's what it's Jacob Derwin. I'm not comparing this exactly to Jacob Derwin. I feel like Jacob Derwin's the prime answer to, hey, you better make sure that there's no way that people can confirm
Yeah.
that this is true or not. And I don't think that this will. I don't think this will hurt his game at all.
No.
But it is one of those. Okay, just a little tweak there, and I think we'll be good. But it turns out his. I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. During strategizing, his name never comes up anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No. I watching that him coming back, I thought, and again, it could just be like the all-knowing we're watching the episode, but I'm watching that scene where he comes back from the exile mountain and he looks nervous. He looks like he's looking down when he's talking about it. I'm like, oh shit, someone's gonna call him out. We're gonna get some sort of confessional and nothing. So
He
it
even said that
worked.
at travel. He
Yeah,
said that he's like, no one said anything to me when I got back. It's
yeah,
like, that's awkward. It's like,
yes.
yeah. So I'm just gonna tell everyone, hey, this is what happened. And I felt like I felt for him in that situation. It's like, really, no one was trying to be, no one tried to pry information out of you. No one tried to do this. No one tried to do that. And I think it's yeah. I really, I don't know how much was cut from that, but I would like to see the raw footage of just
Oh
like
yeah.
how long it takes between when he gets back and when he's finally just like, "Hey guys, by the way, I'm here, and also this is what happened."
At least
Um,
he lied about it and didn't just tell the whole tribe.
that's true. Okay, so we get to the. I mean, oh yeah, do we want to talk about anything from strategy anymore? Anything else from after the reward challenge? No. Okay, so we get to the immunity challenge, and as a now retired athlete in Julia and a pretty retired athlete in me, cardio's a bitch.
It
Cardio
is.
is a bitch. And I don't know how hot it was on this specific day. It did seem like they had a lot of coverage for the trees, thank goodness.
Mm.
But people were gassed early. And once again, I don't know how long at what point we're watching this, but let's just take it at face value and say this is exactly how it happened. These people were gassed very fast. And also, shout out to my boy David for wearing jeans during this challenge and just
Love
I
David.
I couldn't even. I had to rewind to make sure that it wasn't just like blue sweatpants. Which would have been worse.
He wants to look good for Final Tribal. I get it.
My
He's
boy
thinking
was
ahead.
out there wearing jeans doing this challenge, and comparatively he's not one of the ones that look like they're dying. So what did you think of the challenge? Before we get to that one part of it, what did you think
Yeah.
of the challenge? And did you have any thoughts on one, how gas people were, but two, did you have any, I guess, winner picks with it?
Winner picks like going into the challenge.
Into the challenge. Did you hit like, oh, this team is definitely, this tribe's definitely going to win, or
Oh yeah, I think
we'll get to that.
Once green got to the puzzle, or teal got to the puzzle, I'm like, all right, they got this. With both people seemed fairly confident when they were talking pre-challenge about who was wanting to do the puzzle. And I think once it got to that point, they were working together well. I'm like, all right, they're not catching up. Pink put up a valiant effort. I think they closed the gap a bit. But at that point, I thought teal had it. But God, I was struggling watching the challenge. First, the knots. I felt like Lewicki had zero sense of urgency when it came to undoing those knots. I was like staring at my TV, like, come on, move a little bit faster. And then again, coach, cardio is a bitch.
Cardio is a bitch. I make my players do an hour of cardio every Wednesday, and I do feel bad for them while they're, exhausted, but it's needed. But going off of that, going to Kira's comment, at first when she's like gasping for air, I thought it was just another in a long line of scenes of people gasping for air, and she's tired because they're all tired. And then it was, I don't know if it was the audio or something happened where I'm like, oh wait, Daniel's telling them stop.
Yeah.
And we have a moment where, Kira just basically just needs to be calmed down a little bit. Like, it didn't look like she was like hyperventilating or anything, but it just more felt like she was gassed beyond what everybody else was gassed as.
Mm-hmm.
Gassed was, whatever. For you, if put yourself in both tribe shoes, because this is brought up after the challenge, would you have how would you have felt in that moment?
Yeah, I think I would have had,
and yeah, I mean, I absolutely believe that, because I don't think they would have stopped the challenge for a cough or something.
I'm nasty. I'll be the first person to admit it. I definitely would have had concern first, especially it was worse than it was shown on the episode. And then I think I would have probably had the call and response afterwards of, damn, we could have caught up if we kept going. But I get it, especially when it comes with something medical. Shit happens. It probably was better to stop the challenge. I definitely would have thought like Colin. I probably wouldn't have verbalized it as loud as he did. But I understand the frustration from him for sure, but understand why they stopped the challenge as well.
See, I would have. I always say that, and this maybe it was actually getting to neck and neck, but for me, that's just a losing mentality of, oh yeah, like we would have if this hadn't happened. It's like, yeah, but you also could have at this point. You could have at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just because you were narrowing the gap at that point doesn't necessarily mean that you would have won. That's playing the maybe ifs. Maybe if this had happened, it's like, okay. And I get it. I get that, in that type of situation, you have to try to rationalize a loss. You have to say things like, hey, guys, we'll get them next time. We'll do this. We'll do that.
You have to keep it us versus them. Like, it's their fault. Like, we would have if not for this. It's the only way to keep the morale, especially after 2 losses.
Yes, but internally, I would have just been like, shut up. Like, we lost because we lost, and now we have to vote you out, or just whoever else out. But yes, inevitably they do lose. We get back to camp, and it's pretty early established that there's only going to be 2 names out there.
Yes.
Now, I know your opinion on one. What was your opinion on the other?
Tyler. The thing I wrote down, Tyler, villain of the season. I don't foresee him, knock on wood, hope I'm wrong, because I think he's a great TV. I don't foresee him going much further in the game, because I do think sooner rather than later, his personality is going to show itself. What he's showing in the confessional, I think, is going to manifest itself more in his actual conversations. But God, I love the confessional. I love the nasty little confessionals. Feels like I get to giggle along with him. And I'm a fan. I really am.
And that's the type of player I don't enjoy. But and I get it, like different strokes and all that. But it became apparent that it was going to be the two of them going against each other, and one has outright hatred, in-game hatred for the other, to the point where he says he hates them. And during the voting confessional, it's like, oh yeah, like I'm not looking forward to, like, we're never going to encounter each other again. And
that one, I think he was towing the line before then. I think he took a little bit of a nosedive over the line, the voting confessional. But up until then, I was right with him. I was cruising right along with Tyler.
It was a weird type of, like, why do you guys, or not why do you guys, why do you not like him this early? Like, there are personalities that I don't vibe with, but I'm never going to get to the point that early in a game or in general where it's like, yeah, I hope to never meet this, unless they're an actual piece of shit. And everything that we learned, he's just Weird Al. Like, yeah. That was it. He's got an eccentric personality and wears a funny hat, which is actually not even that funny. It's just everything, because everything about him is funny. It's, yeah. So that was weird. But, I mean, support who you support. Did you think that we were having the wool pulled over our eyes? Or did you think that the vote was as obvious as it kind of looked like it was going? Or did you think, hey, it could actually go either way?
Yeah, I definitely thought it could go either way. I thought it looked like we had kind of 3 votes that were kind of set one way. It seemed like Jabbar, Amy, Peter is another one, seemed like they really were interested in voting out Tyler. So going to that tribal, I felt like it could go either way, leaning Colin, but I was going to be not shocked if it ended up being Tyler.
Well, and enter the main character for the last 15 minutes of the episode, and Peter, who just comes out of nowhere and just...
Nowhere. He doesn't get a confessional until 15 minutes. We don't hear from him, and then he's everywhere.
And then he's everywhere, and he's admitting that he's trying to be as relatively chaotic as possible. Tyler never actually said that. No one actually ever said that about Tyler, but I'm just trying to put this on him because of this, that, and the other. He's telling Tyler, like, hey, yeah, these people are going to vote, but I think they might be voting you. And I think that was the point of the episode where I thought, oh, shit, they might
turn it on him.
Because this random, CGI character that came out of nowhere just showed up and told me that Tyler's going home now.
Mm-hmm.
So... Because I do want to talk more about Peter at the end of the episode. So
yes.
we'll put a cap there for now. We get to tribal, and once again, like I said, it took me until the end of the episode to realize that they did the entire round in a day. I'm like, oh wow, tribal at night for the first round. Okay. Did you feel at that moment? Well, first, as someone who has done a fair few of these games and a person that has won these games. That first tribal, how are you feeling? Whether you know that your name's not out there or not, how are you feeling anyway?
It's Survivor. I would say the only way in Survivor to know for absolute certain you are not going home is to have individual immunity around your neck. With all the twists and turns and advantages, an idol might not even save you every time. I'm an overly anxious person to begin with, so I'm showing up at any tribal without immunity. My palms are sweaty, knees weak, all of that good stuff.
Mom spaghetti.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say that I
especially the first tribal.
Especially because no one wants to go out first. Whether you're someone that knows Survivor because of Total Drama Island or knows nothing about Survivor, knows everything about Survivor, no one wants to go home first. But we get to the voting confessionals. Oh, also, one thing to point out, we don't get a single point of this episode where people are looking for idols. And correct me if I'm
I
wrong.
agree. Yes.
And I love that.
Especially, it seemed like they had, again, we don't know exactly when they arrived. You know, it was like earlier in the day, they got through 2 challenges and it was night. So they were definitely there for a decent portion of time. The fact that we didn't see really any advantage hunting was very interesting to me.
I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, if people are actually looking and actually find something, yeah, sure, show us. But like, if people are just out looking for shit and the payoff is, oh, I guess I can't find anything. It's like, no, just don't show us. And I like that they just didn't show
Absolutely.
us. Now, what I almost hope happens is someone has found something and they just don't tell us that it's happened until
We'll get a good flashback.
Such good shit, pal. So we get the votes, you know, and you know, we lose Weird Al, we lose your boy.
We lose a big character. It was a big character in the beginning.
And when you texted me, you said that someone was giving you Jelinski vibes. And I was like, okay, there's really only one person. And then you said, no way, this person just referenced Jelinski. And it's like, oh shit. And then when I got to the part of the episode, it's like, yeah, but I'll say it like this. During my marathon last summer, every person, like every few hours, someone would say, we want Jelinski back. We want the Jelinski back. And I was like, I don't know if they'll bring back. I understand that Jelinski is probably, I won't say an all-time character, but like he's up there as far as characters in the show's history is concerned. And I think that we got, like, I hope he keeps on playing games.
Absolutely.
And just final words, it kind of seems like, I mean, yeah, he seems down. But he does make reference to, hey, the next time that I do this.
Yes, he's someone that we're doing this 6 weeks from now, 6 episodes from now. He's still someone I'm remembering clear as day, where I could see other people potentially fading in the background. But he, in his one episode, I can already tell is going to be like an all-time character from this season. And I can say that with like 100% confidence.
The fit, the personality, him trying to start the fire. In my head, he tried to start a fire for hours. Like, I know we only get like a 5-minute scene where,
but it could have been a montage of hours.
Yeah, I thought it was so funny. But we're not done. We're not done because.
But wait,
you know, take your torches and get back, and Peter once again just goes from just not existing to just. It was almost surreal, and I had just watched the most recent episode of Survivor beforehand, so like
as did I.
My peak surrealness was about here anyway. We're about here anyway, so it goes off screen as far as I can't believe this is happening. But basically, Peter says, "Hey, in my first game, I got voted out first, and I was so scared tonight, and this, that, and the other." And you point out Jabbar's side eye. Jabbar does another side eye before they do the zoom in side eye. Like, he has, I think, 3 side eyes during this entire monologue that Peter goes on. What was this?
I don't even know. It feels like Peter suffers from what they call in Mean Girls as the word vomit, where you can just tell in his mind he wants to be like super calculated but still chaotic. You know, like he's making his chaotic moves, but he's planning it. It's calculated. But then he just can't help but open his mouth then and let people know his true nature. Especially in that tribal. He goes in, he's saying, I'm probably going to throw a vote. I want to cause a little chaos. I want to do whatever. And he does. He throws his vote on Lydia. But then to afterwards immediately open his mouth and talk about how worried he was, I'm not going to be shocked if they go after next tribal and everyone's like, yeah, he probably threw the fucking vote because he was terrified.
Yeah. I don't say that often with the fact that I watched 2 different versions of Survivor.
We both did the back-to-back. Shocked.
And for both episodes to end like that is insane. Like, I don't think that I've ever actually seen that before. I'm pretty sure the closest thing I could think of is like Coach and Tocantins, but even then, he would say stuff right before they would go vote. Like, he wouldn't say
after tribal.
Yeah. And so, I'm curious. And this is another reason why I don't think Jabbar will be any type of trouble if
No.
people even learn that he threw his vote, because now there's this personality that's sitting here saying this. And whether it was real or not, like, I'm sure we'll find out next episode whether if that was actually his LRG experience leading into this. But let's just say that it's fake. That's still, you're not doing yourself any favors. If it's real, you're not doing yourself any favors, but you might gain people to be like, oh man, that really does suck, fam. I'd be more willing to bet that people are just like, I don't care.
And again, it's one thing, and I still don't like it, but it's one thing if it's an 8-1 vote, everyone votes Colin, and Colin puts his vote on Tyler, that's one thing. But when you're at a tribal where another vote is going towards Tyler, and then there's a random Lydia vote, and then you're doing this, it's so easy for one of those things to be pinned on you, especially after you just had a semi-public confrontation with Tyler during the scramble period.
Yes.
I feel like, again, it's sacrilege either way, but given the vote count and what had happened earlier in the episode, I think he just set himself up for like nuclear failure.
So what we're saying is he's going to win?
He's going to win. Of course. He's going to win unanimously.
All right, so as we start to wrap up, final thoughts on the episode, and then we'll get into winner picks. Because we went into the season like blind. We have not watched the cast assessment, so like everything we know about people is coming from this episode. Now I do plan on watching the cast assessment after this.
I wanted to be fresh.
But if you had to just blind guess a winner pick right now, and you had to remove some type of bias, like not knowing people, who would you go with?
Yeah, I said it at the top of the episode, and I'm sticking with it. Please don't do me dirty. My winner pick is J-Mac. I thought they had the perfect mix of great personal conversations. They were shown to be strategizing very well, and I think especially the first episode being one of the only people that got really quality content with a duo, showing a strong relationship, I think is something super important in the game of Survivor. And I see them going very, very far, hopefully winning.
Well, I want to say I want David and his jeans to win. Then I'm picking David and his jeans to win. I would love David and his jeans. I'm going to refer to David and his jeans the rest of the season, as long as he survives.
Can we get that in the lower third of future episodes, please?
David and his jeans.
David and his jeans.
It was so, like, I had a kid show up to practice yesterday for his first practice, and he's wearing khakis and a polo. And I'm a rugby coach, and he shows up wearing khakis and a polo, and I'm like, all right, whatever. He can, like, as long as you don't mind getting dirty, and he got it dirty, and he never complained about it. And so to go from that to watching David wearing his jeans, it's like, all right.
And they won.
Yeah, and he doesn't mind, and he can spread in them. He wasn't holding his legs back. He was able to spread in them. So like, if you're comfortable doing that, then by all means. But having said all of that and removing bias and everything, I still am probably set on Sam. I said earlier, I do feel like there are going to be some folks that are just like, oh man, like, she does carry a conversation. And it's like, yeah, but those people, can get people on their side. As we saw with
absolutely
48 on Wednesday, Say should have gone home 3 episodes in a row and has not, because she's able to get people on her side by just talking. And I feel like that's the type of vibe that Sam has given me in both the game that I've played with her and so far in this. And she's another one that any content that people had about her was positive.
Absolutely. Good pick. No complaints.
Yeah. But no, I'm very excited to be covering this season. I'm really appreciative that we were asked to do this. It gives me something to do on Thursdays. We're going to be doing this on Thursdays.
Yes.
Time will vary between 7 and 9. Any final words before we bounce?
Yeah, I'm very excited, as you said, to cover this season. The quality was amazing. I think the cast is going to continue to impress, and I can't wait to see how it pans out.
Well, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I know that they are doing recaps right now on, I want to say 4 LRGs, but it might just be 3. So make sure that you share this. Make sure to share this with any future castmates, any current castmates, any past castmates. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.